check, 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need. Get over the fear and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, Michael Quarles with podcast number 27. It's a Monday. I'm excited. I get to answer 5 questions sent in over the weekend from real estate investors. Thank you, guys. And remember, if you want to send a question in, send it to support@bsffacademy.com. So support@bsffacademy.com. And we'll get your questions answered. First question. In the seller presentation, you mentioned that the seller can stay in the house as long as they need, once the property is in your name or company name. Do you then have the seller sign a rental agreement? So, going to ask that a different way. So, when I negotiate with the seller, one of the things I do is I tell the seller that one of the luxuries of selling me their house is they can be assured that the home's sold, not only sold to somebody who can afford to buy it, and they can close on the day of their choice and stay in the house as long as they need to. Now, I don't tell the seller they can stay in the house after it closes. I say they can stay in the house as long as they need to, knowing the house is sold. Some sellers need to go out and they're buying a brand new house or they're getting a job transfer in 3 months, and they want to make sure that this house that they're in is sold, but they don't want to move out of it for 3 months. So I just don't close escrow until the house is vacant. So I'll hold on to a house for 6 months, 12 months. It works really well. Now, if the price of the house has gone up, I win. I make more money. If the price of the house has gone down, I renegotiate the price of the house. So, again, the seller can stay in the house as long as they need to, knowing that the house is sold, not only sold to somebody who can afford to buy it, and they can close escrow on the day of their choice. Question number 2. Do you get home inspections on property after you get it under contract? Very rarely. What I do get, by the way, is a roofing inspector, because I know that I'm going to have to get a 2-year roof cert if I sell it to somebody who's going to get financing. I don't sell a lot of finance deals, but I still want to send my roofing contractor out there to figure out what I have to mitigate from a roofing perspective to get a 2-year roof certification. And I'm also going to send out my termite inspector so they can do Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3 reports. For the same reason. So I need to know what I'm going to have to mitigate if someone that wants to buy it from me wants a termite report. From a home inspector perspective, I really don't. I have a general building contractor's license in California. And I also know that those 2 other reports that I'm going to get, I know my termite company, they're going to get under the house. They're going to look for wood rot and infestation and all kinds of stuff. And I know my roofing contractor, he's going to tell me what he thinks as well. So no, I really don't. But there are times that I'll do. Maybe I've got a really, really, really old house, and I know I have 2-prong plugs, not a grounded plug, those kinds of things. I might send a home inspector out there to see what I have to mitigate from a health and safety perspective. But rarely I don't really do it. If you don't have a lot of construction background, I absolutely believe you should. They're about $350. And one of the things I do think you should do, no matter if you get one or not, is you should do a ride-along with a home inspector. In fact, you should do a ride-along with a roofing contractor, a ride-along with a termite contractor, and a ride-along with a home inspector to find out what they do and how thorough they are. So get some coveralls on and crawl under the house with them, crawl up in the attic with them, do the inspection, see what it's like and what they're looking for, and that will help you when you're out there buying houses to notice those things that those inspectors are going to see. Question number 3. Is there any way to structure a deal and make money where the seller owes what the house is worth? There's absolutely ways to do that. However, it's not my business model. If I'm going to talk to a seller, if I'm going to do marketing, if I'm going to do all kinds of things, I want to talk to sellers who can give me massive amounts of money and not little passive amounts of money. But if I was going to buy something, let's say, for instance, I have a house and it's 100% financed, and that financed amount interest rate is low enough that my mortgage payment, my property insurance, my property taxes, and 25% vacancy rates all cause that property to be viable to a tenant, then I may take it for that reason. Or I can take it and I can resell it to a tenant buyer on a lease option. Or I can sell it under a sub 2, or I can sell it under a land contract and get some future income. But it's not really my business model. I really am not into that kind of thing. But yes, you can. There are some great guys out there that teach that marginal and itty bitty investing kind of stuff. That's just not me. I want to make massive amounts of money. Question number 4. If a seller would like to have their attorney review their contract prior to signing, do you allow them to do so? Or do you just insist they sign the contract? Here's what I do. And I think it's a cool thing. I ask the seller who the seller's attorney is. So if they say, Mike, everything sounds great, we just need to pass this through our attorney or our real estate agent and go from there, I'm going to say, great, that's a great idea. If you give me the name of your attorney, I will share that with my attorney. They probably know each other very well, and my attorney will tell your attorney that this agreement is a great agreement and a legally and binding agreement. Let's do that. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and sign this agreement so we can have your house sold, get you on your way. And in some occasions, very rarely will I be this week, but rarely will I be this week. But I may go to the seller and I'll say to the seller, let's go ahead and sign. I'm going to give you a 24-hour right to rescind. So if you change your mind tomorrow, if you change your mind tomorrow evening, all you have to do is say so and we'll rescind the contract. Sometimes that's what we have to do. It's a weak play, but sometimes we have to. Now, there's been many times that the seller says, no, Mike, I want my brother-in-law, he's an attorney, I want him to look at it. And I said, well, absolutely let him look at it. Then I get a contract back from the seller after they say something like, yeah, my brother-in-law looked at it and he made some corrections. And I tell them, I said, well, the problem with that is I sign my contract. I don't sign a corrected or manipulated agreement. I'll sign mine. If you would like to sell your house, and you told me you would, and you would like the amount of money that I want to give you, and you said you did, then we need to sign my agreement. And if they don't sign your agreement, don't buy the house. Go buy somebody else's house. My goodness, there's enough sellers out there that we don't have to worry about who's going to play ball the way we want to play ball. Don't play basketball with the football kind of thing. If you're playing basketball, play basketball. Do what you're supposed to do. Do it the way you're supposed to do it. And don't have people change your agreement. I had one lady, she spent $4,000 with her real estate attorney changing my agreement, and she was frustrated. Poor lady. Question number 5. During the time that you're negotiating and signing the contract with the seller, how can you know what liens are on the title? I don't care. Here's the deal. It's the seller's responsibility to cure all those liens, the involuntary and the voluntary liens. I'm agreeing to a sales price. And if I'm taking it subject to the existing loan, I'm agreeing to a subject to loan maximum. So even in my agreement, I write in there, it says, loan not to exceed an amount. If it does exceed that amount, the seller has to come up with the difference. If their liens causes them to have to come up with money out of pocket, then that's just what they'd have to do. And there's a lot of sellers that will have to do that because they have child support or IRS liens or state liens or whatever it is. it is what it is. I had a Homeland Security gal or seller who had a Homeland Security lien, and, she had to take care of it or I couldn't buy the house. So I'm not worried about the liens that are on the property. I do want to get my prelim from my escrow closing company as soon as possible. So I do have the seller, and I give this to them when I meet with them. They're going to do and fill out the statement of identity, which is a form that talks about their maiden names, their married names, where they've lived, where they live now, their past history, so we can identify them, especially in the cases of a common name. Because, someone else, some other John Doe may owe a bunch of money, but they're John Doe too, but they're not the same John Doe. So this statement of identity helps the closing company determine if there are any liens against the person. And I want to do that as soon as possible. I mean, as soon as possible. Remember, I am meeting them down at the escrow closing company the following day to get a memorandum of contract notarized and open up escrow or open up my closing. And that's a good time for them to bring that document with them so we can get this thing started. Great questions today, guys. I really appreciate you writing in and asking me these questions. And remember, in order to do that, all you have to do is send an email to support@bsffacademy.com. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.